Night 1 of the 2020 WWE Draft is officially in the books, and I'm here today to break down all the fallout from Friday Night SmackDown for October 9th, 2020. I am Graham Jason Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well. This is the first SmackDown review I've done in probably 2 to 3 weeks. It's been a while. I know I didn't do one last week. I was away. And the week before that, the weekend of Clash of Champions, I didn't do one due to being sick. So this is my first SmackDown review in a while. I apologize for the inconvenience or the inconsistency in posting these SmackDown audio reviews. But we are back today with a very newsworthy episode discussing all the fallout from Night 1 of the 2020 Draft. As I mentioned earlier, from SmackDown last night. And overall, honestly, I thought it was a pretty good show. SmackDown, by and large, I would say, and I know for a fact I'm not the only one who feels this way, has obviously been the strongest show, been the superior show over Raw for the last couple of weeks now. But overall, it's just been a decent show, I would say. They got good storylines going on. The matches have been decent. I've been digging more often than not what I've seen from SmackDown in recent weeks. And I thought last night's show, and I might be in the minority here, I enjoyed Night 1 of the WWE Draft. The execution isn't always the greatest, but I will say this. Thank the Lord that we did not get the dumb war rooms and the reactions from the executives, quote-unquote, from Raw and SmackDown. Not Raw and SmackDown, but rather USA Network and Fox. That's what we got last year during the draft, and it was complete trash. They, interspliced thoughts from, ESPN people, Fox, insiders, people who talk about sports on Fox. They interspliced comments from them during the draft. And it was so silly. I appreciated the attempt, but for a fact, these people don't watch wrestling. They don't give a fuck about the draft. So, it just kind of felt like a waste of time. I liked it at the time, but in retrospect, it was pretty dumb. Watching those clips back of the the Fox robot acting overjoyed for getting the Lucha House Party on SmackDown was incredibly stupid. So I'm glad they just skipped all that nonsense this year, and they just got down to the nitty-gritty of it, of which superstars went where. So I appreciated that. So we had Stephanie McMahon presiding over the WWE Draft once again this year. Who's making these moves, by the way? I have no idea. Stephanie is merely announcing the picks. We were told earlier on WWE.com the day before, and they make the rules up for this stuff a day or two in advance, if that. It's very last minute. I'm pretty sure the rules came out on Thursday afternoon, so literally not even a week, but a day before the show. They came up with the rules for the draft. It's a lot like last year. Again, Adam Pearce is a WWE executive, I think. They never really explained his role fully, so I have no idea where he falls in all of this. But without general managers, this whole thing is 10 times more confusing because we have no idea who's making the picks for who goes where. I assume they're making the picks in between the rounds. But even then, some of the stuff that we saw on the show is very questionable. And I'll run through all the draft picks in between the matches of where they aired during the show. But for example, Big E getting drafted without New Day. Listen, I'm all for New Day going to separate shows. I may be the only one who feels that way, but I think it's refreshing. The way that it was done, though, was incredibly stupid. Raw selected Kofi and Xavier, but not Big E. That, to me, makes absolutely no sense, and to a lot of other people makes absolutely no sense. If you have the opportunity to take 3 superstars as one pick, why wouldn't you? Why would SmackDown only take Otis and not Tucker? Obviously, Otis is more valuable than Tucker, but it's not like you're wasting a pick if you're picking... if everyone was just one pick, then I kind of get it. But you're including tag teams as one pick, so why wouldn't you just pick up Tucker? Even if you don't have any plans for Tucker, why wouldn't you want him there just in case if you're a Fox executive to team with Otis as heavy machinery? Why would you want just Otis and not Tucker? I realize he's Mr. Money in the Bank, but it doesn't hurt to get Tucker too. So I thought that was kind of silly. But overall, though, I like the results of the draft, some of the moves that were made. The execution was a bit better this year. Still questionable. Not without its flaws, but I enjoyed it overall. So we started off the show with round 1. That was the very first thing they got to. It was a pretty stacked show between the draft. They had a SmackDown Women's Championship match, the Fiend's first WWE TV match ever, and what we later came to find out, as well as a Falls Can Anywhere match, which I'll get to momentarily, but also a SmackDown Tag Team title match. So this was a very newsworthy night on SmackDown. In addition to all the draft stuff, they really tried to load up this show with a lot of marquee matches. I assume not just because it was draft night, but because the show aired opposite, I believe, of an NBA final game. And now I'm not too knowledgeable about sports, but I'm pretty sure from what I heard from Alexis's brother, who we were watching the show with, I think he had mentioned that what was I going to say? That the NBA final game was on, airing opposite of SmackDown. So that's probably why the rating did not improve at all. I think the viewership actually was down from last week. It was down like 100,000 people. Usually they go to the draft for, they usually bust the draft back out to boost numbers for the shows. The rating probably would have been a lot worse had that NBA game, had they not done the draft. But because of the NBA game, that's why. So, nonetheless, we had round 1 of the WWE draft, and I'll analyze everyone of who went where and my thoughts on it and stuff like that in a separate post on WrestleRant.com. I'm merely just going to mention who went where here in this review. I'll give some, quick thoughts, but my extra analysis on the draft and why I think each move was the right move to make will be explained more fully in that separate post on WrestleRant.com. So if it's not up right now on the website when you look, it should be up shortly. But anyway, so the very first pick in the 2020 WWE Draft was Drew McIntyre, the WWE Champion, getting selected by Raw. Another thing I should note, too, is that Raw got 3 picks. For every 3 picks that Raw got, SmackDown got 2 picks, because Raw is the longer show. So that's how it worked. Drew McIntyre went to Raw. Universal Champion Roman Reigns went to SmackDown. Raw Women's Champion Asuka went to Raw. And when I say went to Raw, obviously I mean stayed on Raw, because these people have been on these shows. Seth Rollins was drafted by SmackDown, and the Hurt Business stayed on Raw. All 4 guys, by the way, too. There were a lot of tag teams and stables that were broken up in the draft this year, or at least so far. But the Hurt Business stayed entirely intact. They got the United States Champion Bobby Lashley, MVP, Shelton Benjamin, and Cedric Alexander. Now, I'm very, very happy with the fact that they went in round 1. First of all, it makes sense. Because what roster wouldn't want 4 guys on your show? One of them being the United States Champion. I mean, who would have ever thought that Shelton Benjamin in 2020 would be a first-round draft pick? And Cedric Alexander, but more impressively, Shelton Benjamin, who has been a non-factor in this company essentially since he came back 3 years ago. That's crazy. It made sense for the other people to get selected before them, just because, the Raw Women's Champion, Asuka, that's, a pretty big endorsement of her. Rollins is a big name. He's been on Raw for a long time now. A lot like Asuka, Becky Lynch was like the premier pick in last year's draft. I think if she wasn't number 1, then she was very close. But I'm pretty sure she was the premier pick for Raw, either on night 1 or night 2. Asuka wasn't number 1, but she was number 2, because she and the WWE Champion were in the same pool this year, so I get why they did what they did. Roman Reigns should not move. He's done great work on SmackDown recently. He just moved to SmackDown about a year and a half ago. No reason to move Roman. I like that he stayed put. Rollins moving to SmackDown is very interesting. As many other people have pointed out, he has been on Raw since day 1. I mean, really, he debuted on Raw back in 2012. He's appeared on SmackDown multiple times. It's not like he's never been on SmackDown. But since the draft was brought back in 2016, the brand split was reinstated, he's always been a Raw guy. I think he was actually the premier pick in the 2016 draft. He was the premier pick last year as well. 2017, 2018, 2019 in the Superstar Shakeup. He went nowhere. He stayed right where he was on Monday Night Raw. So him going to SmackDown is interesting. Now, when I first heard that, I was very excited, not only for the fact that he was bleeding blue now, but for the fact that he would be getting away from the Mysterio family. Unfortunately, that is not the case. And I'll talk more about that later, but Rollins is now on Friday nights. He said later on in a backstage interview, well, a few things actually, which I'll mention in a moment. One thing being that no longer is he the Monday Night Messiah, but rather the Friday Night SmackDown Savior. So the SmackDown Savior, not quite as catchy as the Monday Night Messiah, but it is what it is. So he said that in a WWE.com exclusive video. It's also up on the YouTube channel. Also on their YouTube channel, and I'm pretty sure this made the cut. I think this is where it aired. I didn't watch it. They had a WWE watch-along on the network, on the WWE YouTube channel of the Bump People. They had Rollins on there. I think this was the watch-along is where this aired. And I guess they talked about potential opponents of people he would want to face on SmackDown. And he outright said, I do not want to face Matt Riddle. He could go to Raw for all I care. Which was incredibly interesting. So, as other people have pointed out, oh, maybe he was talking in character. He was not talking in character. Of anyone I have ever interviewed or heard be interviewed or appear on these WWE shows, all they ever talk about is who they do want to face. They never talk about who they don't want to face. Unless it's like a feud thing or like a storyline thing. Rollins and Riddle have never interacted ever on WWE TV. There is no established bad blood there. Rollins would have no reason to say that unless he had legitimate bad blood for Matt Riddle. So, Matt Riddle, for his sake, better hope he ends up on Raw. Because if he stays on SmackDown, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be real interesting to see him on SmackDown alongside Rollins. And you know they're going to have to fight at some point. If Riddle stays on SmackDown, Riddle's a babyface, Rollins is on SmackDown as a heel. It just kind of makes sense to do the feud at some point if they're going to stay on SmackDown. So he better fucking hope that he goes to Raw, because if not, he's probably fucked. His career might not be over, but there's a lot of shit coming out about Matt Riddle right now, and there has been for months. But it revved up again this last week, the last 2 weeks or so, with Candy Cartwright, I believe was the person who came out with her story during the whole speaking out movement in late June. You know, a lot of people chalked up her story to being bullshit, and it was questionable, but the fact that she's suing WWE, she's suing Matt Riddle, it seems like there's some smoke to the fire here. Otherwise, why? I mean, I don't know. But to me anyway, and I'm not going to go any further with the speculation, investigation, whatever, the cheating thing is one thing. Maybe that was Rollins' issue with, I mean, that can't be it. I was telling Alexis about how it might have something to do with the whole investigation. And she mentioned how maybe Rollins has an issue with Riddle because he cheated on his wife last year, or the last year or two or whatever. I mean, that would be hypocritical because I'm pretty sure Rollins cheated on his fiancée a couple of years ago as well. So, like 5 years ago. The guy's never been the greatest boyfriend from what I can gather. So that can't be it. It's definitely the whole speaking out thing and him thinking Riddle's a piece of shit. So that was interesting. Keep an eye out for that. The first match of the night saw Big E battle Sheamus in a Falls Count Anywhere match. I thought this was awesome. This was a great way to kick off the show. Very physical encounter. Big E looked great. Really took it to that next level. Sheamus shines in this environment. He's had a ton of no-holds-barred, no disqualification-esque matches over the course of his career. Always knocks it out of the park. Sheamus is really good in the utility role, though I am hoping with this loss, and I'm glad he lost here, but I'm really hoping with this loss, he heads over to back over to Raw. He's been on SmackDown, I want to say since 2018, when the Bar got drafted there in the shakeup, and he stayed there in 2019. He came back to SmackDown earlier this year. Really hasn't done much at all. I know he probably wants to stay on SmackDown so he can win the Intercontinental Championship. That's the only title he hasn't won. The Universal Championship, another title he's never won, is also on SmackDown. So, career-wise, he might want to stay on Friday nights. And I've seen people say, oh, maybe Nakamura moves to Raw so Cesaro and Sheamus can get back together. I have no interest in seeing the Bar reunite. We already have Sheamus and Nakamura. And if you're not going to split those two up, if you are going to split those two up, what does that accomplish, getting the Bar back together? It accomplishes absolutely nothing. Sheamus can be used on his own. I want to see Nakamura on his own, to be honest with you. I want to see all those guys on their own. I know this company needs more tag teams, but disbanding one to reunite another, in this case, when they're kind of like the same team, serves absolutely no purpose. So, at any rate, I thought the Falls Count Anywhere match was great. Sheamus killed it. Big E killed it. They took the fight, shockingly, behind the scenes. It wasn't just around ringside or in front of the screens or whatever. We just got a Falls Count Anywhere match at SummerSlam. This was infinitely better. That was between Braun and Bray, the Fiend, whatever. They only went to the backstage area, like, to Gorilla for, like, maybe a minute or two. This one primarily largely took place in the outside backstage area. So I thought that was really cool. Sheamus did the white noise on top of the car windshield, which, felt a lot like the parking lot brawl that we just saw in Dynamite between Best Friends and Santana and Ortiz from a couple of weeks ago. But Sheamus actually did do that to Big E. Maybe before that, I feel like we saw Sheamus attack Big E before that. Yeah, it was, because he attacked Big E about a month ago in early September. The parking lot brawl in Dynamite was a few weeks later. So anyone saying, oh, they copied AEW, Sheamus actually did it first, so shut the fuck up. Not that I've seen a lot of people say that, but anyway, this was great. Big win for Big E here. So we then had Jey Uso come out to the ring. It was supposed to be him confronting Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns never came out. Paul Heyman interrupted Jey Uso, and then Roman Reigns interrupted Jey Uso. There was a lot of talking here. I thought it was a good segment. The general gist of what went down here was that Roman Reigns, last week he said that the stakes will be higher than ever before than any other match in WWE history for this Hell in a Cell match with Jey at the pay-per-view. I'm going to say it right now. There is absolutely no reason, zero reason, for this match, if it's going to have the I Quit stipulation, which I guess is the stakes that he was talking about. But I also feel like there's more, because I feel like the commentators, I don't know if it was the commentators or Roman or Paul or someone had said something about consequences. Like if Jey loses, there will be consequences. And they never really elaborated as to what he meant by that or what the commentators meant by that. So I'm thinking there's going to be another stipulation where if Jey loses, then he has to join Roman. Are those the highest stakes in WWE history? I would say probably not, considering we had a ladder match for a 10-year-old at SummerSlam 05. I think the custody of a kid is a bit more important than Jey Uso joining Roman Reigns in a fucking wrestling stable. But in all seriousness, though, I like the I Quit stipulation. But when we found out later, I'm skipping ahead here, that Bayley and Sasha will also be inside Hell in a Cell, which I think, whatever. It makes sense because they had a match on this show, whatever. Of the two, though, Bayley and Sasha should be inside the cell and should be inside the main event. Should be in the main event of the show. Roman and Jey, if it's going to have the I Quit stipulation, does not need the Hell in a Cell stipulation too. It just kind of seems pointless. So now we're left in a situation where we have 3 fucking Hell in a Cell matches on the same exact show. 3 Hell in a Cell matches on the same show. That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. That's been done twice before. Once in 2009, the first ever Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. And then again in 2016, and I know that because I was there for the 2016 show, and that show sucked. That show was not good. We don't need 3 Hell in a Cell matches. I was Hell in a Cell fatigue. I was feeling that fatigue, by the time that show was over. But anyway, so I like the promos here. I like the stipulation. It makes sense because Roman's been wanting Jey Uso to say, "Oh, tell me I'm your tribal chief. Tell me I'm your tribal chief." Blah blah blah. So instead of I quit, maybe he says that he's the tribal chief. And if Roman, for Roman, he has to say I quit or whatever. Or that Jey Uso is superior, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. But I like the stipulation. I just think the Hell in a Cell cage being there is a bit unnecessary. Excuse me. So we got round 2 of the WWE Draft right after that. Before that, actually, backstage, we saw the New Day reunite. Kind of anticlimactic fashion. It was great to see them all back together, but They panned down, they were wearing their gear. It's like, okay, are they back on the ring? Or we found out soon after that they were getting a tag title match on the show. Kofi and Xavier, that is. Kofi coming back the way that he did, it didn't really bother me just because he's only been out for a few months. Xavier's been out since literally a year ago. Xavier hasn't even been showed on the show, I don't think. He's been on Talking Smack, but the guy's been off SmackDown entirely for over a year. So I just thought that was bizarre. He's back in a backstage segment? I know they kind of had to rush it with the draft, and I don't know, I just didn't love that. But anyway, so we got round 2. Pick 1 was AJ Styles to Raw, which made me burst out laughing just because the only reason why they're bringing AJ back to Raw after only being on SmackDown for 3 or 4 months? He only returned to SmackDown in May, I think. May or June. Pretty sure it was May. The only reason he went to SmackDown was to get away from Paul Heyman. He found immediate success on the Blue brand, too. Obviously, SmackDown is where he cut his teeth initially. Back in 2016, he was there for 3 years, got drafted last year to Raw, and the Superstar shakeup. He was there for about a year, had very little success. He was the United States champion for a while, but it was kind of an unspectacular reign. The OC broke up. He literally has not won a pay-per-view match in over almost exactly a year. He has not won a match on pay-per-view since Super Showdown a year ago, or Crown Jewel, whatever, when he beat Humberto Carrillo to retain the United States Championship. That was the last time that AJ Styles won a pay-per-view match. So he hasn't had exactly a great 2020. He had a very good Intercontinental Championship reign that was kind of cut short by Jeff Hardy. So him going to Raw, I have no issue with it. He never really should have left Raw in the first place. But the only reason why he did, and he said this before, was to get away from Paul Heyman. Now that Heyman's on SmackDown with Roman, we probably know that's why he went back to Raw. So I just thought that was amazing. Going to SmackDown, Sasha Banks, she's staying right where she is. Naomi going to Monday Night Raw. Now, Naomi is interesting because She's inactive right now. I've complained before, why hasn't Naomi challenged Bayley for the SmackDown Women's Championship after literally pinning her on the SmackDown before SummerSlam? She revealed, I don't know if it was on Instagram or Snapchat or whatever, that she's actually out, not injured, but she had to take care of some stuff, get a surgery or whatever. So I don't know how much longer she's going to be out for, but it's probably not going to be too much longer if she was involved in the draft. A lot of the people who they know aren't going to be back anytime soon, people like Jey Uso, Jinder Mahal, they weren't drafted. So Naomi must be back soon if they included her in the pool year. Then again, this is WWE, so who the hell knows. But Naomi, it's interesting because she was on SmackDown her entire career up until last year when she got drafted to Raw in the shakeup. And then she was on Raw for a couple months, did literally nothing because she was off TV with like an injury or whatever for a little while. And then she came back after her hiatus as a part of SmackDown earlier this year. Also has not done a lot on SmackDown. She's gotten championship opportunities, but they just really haven't pushed her. They've just done nothing with Naomi. So maybe her going to Raw is for the best. Her and Asuka could be fun. I don't know if we've ever seen Asuka versus Naomi before. It really is more a matter of who Raw gets. Like, there's Nia, who cares? Naomi and Shayna could be interesting. There's Naomi and... who else went to Raw? Mandy Rose and Dana, they're baby faces. But, yeah, that could be interesting. So, she's on Raw now. Bianca Belair went to SmackDown. Now, I'm sure that made a lot of people sad, because Naomi and Bianca could be an amazing tag team. The thing is that they could be very well successful single stars. That's probably why WWE is keeping them separate. But yeah, they could be an amazing tag team. I know people have been asking that for a very long time now. But Bianca's going to SmackDown. What that means for the Street Profits, I guess we'll find out. Does that mean Montez Ford goes to the SmackDown too? Because they're married, come Monday's pool. Or do they stay where they are? She's on Fridays, he's on Mondays. But it doesn't really matter because they're taping all the same shows out of the same arena. So it may not even matter who's on what show right now, as long as they're staying in the same place and they're not traveling. The final pick in the second round of the WWE Draft was Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, keeping the WWE Women's Tag Team Champions on Raw. So you're probably asking yourself, why waste the pick on the on the Tag Team Champions if the Tag Team Champions can float anywhere anyway? Well, the answer to that question is that when they drop those tag titles, they will then be exclusive to to Raw. So they'll be on Raw. Nia Jax, who could possibly give two shits about where she is. But Shayna's a nice pick for Raw. She never really, she's just... Honestly, I probably would have moved Shayna to SmackDown before Bianca, just because Shayna's gotten so many title opportunities this year. She's lost every single one of them. Obviously, she's the tag team champion now, but, who could possibly care? So, that's what's happening there. We then had Matt Riddle and Jeff Hardy. Yes, an incredibly random tag team. For some reason, it worked, though. It worked. I don't know if Matt Riddle would do a great job of keeping Jeff Hardy sober. It might not be great for Jeff Hardy's health to be teaming with Matt Riddle long term. But I feel like this was just filler for just to get him on the show. And then they faced the Miz and Morrison, who have done literally nothing since they lost the tag titles in April. Honestly, I don't know if they've won a single match, a single standard 2-on-2 tag team match, since they lost the tag titles 6 months ago. That is terrible. That is a complete waste of these guys, especially Morrison, who came back to the company not even a year ago and has already settled into an enhancement role. The match was fun while it lasted. It was just kind of, whatever. I'm seeing here, actually, this is amazing. This show actually marked 1 year of sobriety for Jeff Hardy. Well, that's awesome, but, from a joking standpoint, to team with Matt Riddle, not a great way to keep your sobriety. So, on your 1 year anniversary, hopefully Jeff Hardy didn't break that because he was teaming with Jeff. But anyway, this was fine. The real newsworthy thing came out afterward when we had the return of Lars Sullivan. A name you probably didn't even either don't know, or if you do, probably thought he got fired a while ago. We have not seen Lars Sullivan on WWE TV since June of 2019. The guy's been gone for, 16 months? I think he was last seen facing the Lucha House Party at Super Showdown, which is where he got injured, and he's been out ever since. Got injured at Super Showdown 2019, had a very serious injury. I don't know what took him so long. I figure we're going to find out news about this and why he's back, why now. Maybe he's been cleared for a few months and they just decided to wait until the draft to bring him back. I don't know. He'll be included in Monday's pool, so we'll find out where he's going come Monday night, come in 2 days. So he was on SmackDown in last year's draft. He actually got selected by Raw first, went to SmackDown the next night, so that was confusing, but never really got a real run on SmackDown. He got hurt like a month or two later. They had the wild card rule, so it didn't really even matter. He was on Raw all this fucking time anyway, so it didn't even really matter. But anyway, so Lars Sullivan is back. And this was an interesting one because there's been a lot of shit. A lot of negative stuff that has come out about Lars in the last year, even before he got hurt. There was a lot of angry people, a lot of people who just don't give a shit. I was always a fan of Lars in NXT. I'm willing to give him a chance. The personal stuff is what it is. With Velveteen Dream, I mean, Lars could very well be a legit piece of shit, too. There's been a lot of stuff that came out about him that is true, factual, not even, like, debatable. It was a long time ago. Is he that still person now? Is he still that person today? I have no idea. I don't know the guy. The difference with Dream is that Dream's been around this entire time for the most part, and he's gotten opportunities, and the guy is just, he hasn't evolved. He's the same guy. I just don't give a fuck about Velveteen Dream at this point. Creatively, he just does nothing for me. Lars has a real chance at being reset here, refreshed, just getting a real shot. He never really got a fair shake the first time, to his credit. They were going to push him going into WrestleMania, apparently had like an anxiety attack or something. He was going to go into WrestleMania and apparently beat John Cena. How far that would have taken him, I have no idea. But that was apparently the plan. It got scrapped. Debuted the night after WrestleMania anyway, and I was there for that, which was a cool moment. Kind of, again, floundered for a while, just squashed a bunch of people, the Lucha House Party, and then he got hurt. So I'm willing to give it a chance. The guy, if he is just anywhere near as athletic as he was before he got hurt, and the injury might have affected that, the guy was a freak. Like, they call him a freak, but, like, athletically, he was a freak. And he was actually really good in NXT. I thought he had some cool matches with Keith Lee, had some good matches with Aleister Black, I thought. Killian Dane was another one. They had a pretty good mini feud on NXT about a year or two ago. He had some decent matches in NXT. So honestly, I'm willing to give this a shot. I don't know how far it's going to go. He might very well, just be... He might very well just be a bust. Excuse me. Who knows? But I'm willing to give it a shot. We'll see. The third round of the WWE Draft saw Ricochet go to Raw. I mean, come on, man. Ricochet's been a bust on Raw. If anyone needed a move, it was him. But he's staying put on Raw. Jey Uso to SmackDown without Jimmy. Jimmy was not eligible. But Jimmy's wife is on Raw. So, again, I'm interested to see what happens there. Mandy Rose staying on Raw. Why even fucking trade her in the first place? I thought that was dumb. Rey and Dominik Mysterio to SmackDown. That was amazing, just because that means the Rollins, Dominik, Rey, Mysterio family bullshit is not over. The best part is that Murphy, and this will be revealed, I'll talk more about this in my Talking Smack review a little later on, Murphy's on SmackDown too. So literally they're just transplanting the feud from one show to the other. SmackDown was good. Do not water it down with this dumb bullshit. They can be on SmackDown, that's fine. But you know what? End this fucking feud. Just end it cold turkey. It's stupid. It's dumb. I don't care. A lot of people don't care. I'm glad Rey and Dominik are sticking together. They could have very well moved one and not the other. But I want to see them as tag team champions. That's Rey's dream. Maybe they were going to split them up and Rey was like, you can't do that. I really want to be with my son. Which is probably for the better. And at some point they can win the tag team titles on SmackDown. Who knows? But that was an interesting one. And now the Miz and John Morrison are going to Raw. So they're pretty much just transferring all the tag teams to the opposite show. Doesn't exactly solve anything, because when you do that, now with the New Day on Raw and Miz and Morrison, you're just going to get more of the same. Who cares? Just for a different set of tag titles, who cares? Because Rey and Dominik versus Miz and Morrison would have been cool, but Miz and Morrison needed a refresh. I'm kind of surprised they weren't split up like they were a decade ago. And Morrison could have gone to Raw, Miz could have stayed on SmackDown, but they're both moving to Raw, so it is what it is. We had Bayley and Sasha Banks for the SmackDown Women's Championship. The match went literally all of 2.5 minutes before Bayley got herself DQ'd with a chair shot. That was fucking dumb. The match was just a complete waste of time. I'm glad they didn't deliver a full-on match before doing that finish. Like, clearly they're saving their best stuff for the pay-per-view, because Sasha did say later on she's challenging Bayley to a Hell in a Cell match for the SmackDown Women's Championship at the pay-per-view. They have quickly cooled off this feud. It had so much promise when Bayley attacked Sasha. Sasha came back too quickly. It's just been rushed beyond belief. So I don't know what they're doing, what the mindset is here, but I'm just not a fan. So anyway, the match was what it was. It should have just never even happened. They should have just had Sasha come out and challenge her to a match at the pay-per-view, or have Bayley attack her beforehand. That would have made more sense. Actually doing the match after this has been building up for literally years, I thought was super stupid. We had the SmackDown Tag Team titles defended, with Shinsuke Nakamura and Cesaro taking on Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. Why Kofi and Xavier were getting a tag title shot, I have no idea. Probably just to set up what happened next. There was literally no reason to do this as a tag team title match. Xavier and Kofi just came back. What did they do to deserve a tag team title match? The answer is absolutely nothing. So they won. The match was good while it lasted. It was only 8.5 minutes. Not too bad. But it was a good match. I enjoyed it. But the New Day are now 9-time tag team champions. I mean, these guys are going to take the fucking titles to the grave. How many times can we see the New Day as tag team champions? They've been together for 6 years now. God bless them. The 7th reign, maybe they'll win the Raw tag team titles another 5 times, but they've had 7 reigns as the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, and 9 overall if you include the 2 Raw tag title reigns from 2015 and 2016 respectively. That's unbelievable to me. That's unbelievable. But they're taking those titles to Raw. So in the 4th round it was revealed Kofi and Xavier are going to Raw. Again, like I said earlier, why would Raw select just them and not like Big E too? Do they not give a shit about Big E? I thought that was weird. So they took Kofi and Xavier. Big E's going to SmackDown. He's staying on SmackDown. Dana Brooke was picked by Raw, despite the fact she was recently traded to Raw. So why would you make a trade so close to the draft when everyone's roster spots are blown up anyway? The rosters don't matter come draft time because everyone is essentially eligible. So why would they even bother to trade Dana? And who did SmackDown for that initial trade get in return? The answer is nobody, so that was stupid. Otis was the final pick for SmackDown of the televised draft for night 1. So Mr. Money in the Bank coming in last. That's interesting. Angel Garza was the final pick for Raw. So that was round 4. Not a lot of thoughts there. Otis without Tucker. I mean, I like Otis a lot. I do. Heavy Machinery still had a lot of unfinished business together, and they never won the tag titles. You have the fucking New Day win their ninth tag title. Heavy Machinery never gets one reign, and they get broken up. Come on, man. Come on. Angel Garza, I hope he's on his own now. I hope he stays on SmackDown. Or I was hoping he would go to SmackDown, but if he's going to stay on Raw, then he better be a singles competitor again. Because I don't know. I feel like the Andrade thing was fun, but they've butchered them so much. I have no desire to see them continue to team. So that was round 4 of the draft. They had round 5 on Talking Smack on Saturday morning earlier today. I'll talk about that in that review. Big E looked legitimately upset. And in talking to Kevin Owens, which you could check out my exclusive interview with him on Bleacher Report right now. The audio of that interview is actually up right now on the YouTube channel as well. Right here on the channel, so check that out from yesterday. He made it quite clear that he does not know where he's going, and I'm sure this is a shoot, until it airs on TV and he finds out like the rest of us. I'm sure this was no different. So I feel bad for them. I am happy that they're going their separate ways in the sense that they can expand and be on different shows, and that we're not getting the whole New Day 6-man tag team thing constantly, which has been done to death by now. But nonetheless, though, I think it's interesting. The way that it was done was weird, as I said earlier. I'm interested to see where it goes, though. So we'll find out soon, I'm sure. But yeah, the SmackDown Tag Team titles being on Raw will obviously be rectified somehow. I don't know if the Profits and the New Day swap championships, or that's assuming the Street Profits go to SmackDown. They may very well stay on Raw. And if they do, then I think they're going to have to, then why would you put the tag titles on New Day? I don't know. It just makes no sense to me. It makes very little sense. But we get to the end part of the show here. We had, Sasha challenging Bayley backstage, Hell in a Cell, blah, blah, blah. We already knew that. Otis being served another lawsuit by The Miz. I was hoping that the Miz and Otis ending up on separate shows would end that storyline, but it's not. They went out of their way to air this segment that indicated that Miz is dragging out the lawsuit. So it's not over. How much do you want to bet, though, that WWE is just going to forget about it and never pay that story off? The feud, well, the storyline, the lawsuit will be going on forever because it'll never be properly explained what happened here. Maybe they'll establish another wild card rule and they'll get the Miz back on SmackDown. I don't know. I really hope not. But like, why would you continue the feud if you know there's no way to do the feud if they're on separate shows? And the feud wasn't even that good anyway. So use this as an excuse to move on. Don't be like, oh, it's going to continue. What, it's Survivor Series? When they face off with Team Raw and Team SmackDown, just end it. Just end it, because it's no good. SmackDown's been better lately, but that whole shit is terrible. So we get to the main event, The Fiend, Bray Wyatt, wrestling for the first time in a televised match on SmackDown, on TV, whatever, taking on Kevin Owens. Now, I thought the match was good. A lot of no selling from The Fiend. It's essentially what you would expect from a Fiend match. Kevin Owens made him look good. There were a few awkward spots, I will say that. Owens went for a pop-up powerbomb on the commentary table, and it just looked terrible, and the table didn't break. So Owens just did it again, and he broke it that time, so good on him. But if you don't like the whole Fiend non-selling thing, you're going to hate this match. I don't love it either. I thought the match was good, but it just is what it is. That's exactly why the Fiend should not wrestle often. He's only had a handful of matches this year, and for good reason. Because there's just no reason to continue doing this stuff all the time. It made Owens look like a loser. To lose, to all the no selling. I mean, it made Wyatt look strong, but again, I like it. You just can't do it often because it's not going to make for great TV if you do it as often as they tend to do sometimes. And he hasn't wrestled a lot this year. We saw the Fiend. I mean, I guess he's wrestled a handful. We saw the Fiend, at WrestleMania. That wasn't really a match. We saw him in the Swamp Fight. That wasn't really a match. We saw him at the Royal Rumble against Daniel Bryan. He lost the championship to, Goldberg at Super Showdown. They had him wrestle against Braun at SummerSlam at Payback. So he's wrestled a few matches this year. But this was the most that I've seen him no-sell since fucking Hell in the Cell last year, which was terrible. The lights went out. They come back on. The Fiend and Alexa Bliss standing face-to-face on the stage as we go off the air. I thought they were going to kiss for a second. Thank God they didn't. Bray Wyatt is married to JoJo. And Alexa Bliss is dating, what is his name, Ryan Cabrera or something like that, a singer. Well, he's been on Miz and Mrs. before, so that wouldn't be good. But I do like the pairing of Wyatt and Bliss, and I really hope they don't end up on separate shows, because I think that'd be really stupid to end the SmackDown, end the show with these two together, and then put them on separate shows. I could definitely see Wyatt going to Raw, but if he does, Alexa's got to join him. They should not be separated. After all the effort they've put into that story, it's got to continue. They put a lot of effort in the whole Rollins and Dominik story too, but that's just turning shit. So that they should just scrap. But the Fiend and Bliss thing I like, and I don't want to see it end so quickly. So that was SmackDown. Honestly, I like the show. There was a lot of newsworthy things about the show. We had the New Day back, Lars Sullivan returned. We had, 2 title matches, a Great Falls Count Anywhere match, hype for next week. We're getting, this was amazing. They announced Roman Reigns on the season premiere of SmackDown. The whole season premiere shit is back. They stopped doing that for a little while, and they started doing it again now. They called last year the season finale. What was the season premiere of Raw? Right before the draft or whatever the fuck it was a year ago? Because it went up against football, that's why. Next week, we're getting the season premiere of SmackDown. It's going to be Roman Reigns defending the Universal Championship against, get this, Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman. The same fucking guy that Roman pinned in the first place to win the championship at Payback. The former champion was not Braun. Braun held it before The Fiend. The Fiend beat Braun at SummerSlam. Braun got pinned again in the triple threat, which he shouldn't have even been in that match, because he had no reason to go back for the belt. The whole automatic rematch clause is a thing of the past. Why would he get a rematch? But he got pinned in that match too. Worse than that, the guy has not been on the show since before Payback. That was 6-7 weeks ago? He's been on Raw ever since, in Raw Underground. He's been doing the whole... He faced fucking Keith Lee on Monday. Come on, man. Come on. I thought that was so stupid. Honestly, even The Fiend would make more sense. They don't want to feed The Fiend to Roman right now, but... I don't know. I just thought that was really dumb. Would it have killed you to have Matt Riddle and like maybe Jeff Hardy face off in a fatal 4-way with Miz and Morrison. The winner of that match gets a title match next week. Matt Riddle wins. Roman kills Matt Riddle. We're all happy. I mean, I like Matt Riddle. Some other people don't for obvious reasons. But I mean, would it have been that difficult? Like, to just put Braun in that spot is stupid. I'm sure a lot of people are not going to tune into SmackDown just to see Roman and Braun. We've seen it before. Don't need to see it again. Whatever. And then we're also getting New Day's farewell match to SmackDown. Kofi, Big E, and Xavier taking on the trio, a very interesting trio, of Sheamus, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Cesaro. So we're getting the reunion of the Bar, but still Cesaro and Nakamura. Very interesting trio. It's very predictable because Big E's been feuding with Sheamus, and Cesaro and Nakamura just got beat for the tag titles by the New Day. So it makes sense, but it's going to be interesting to see, will we get the Bar back, or like what are they going to do there? But anyway, I thought this was a good show. Not everyone's going to, not everyone's going to love the draft format. I have my own issues with it. Some stuff didn't really make a lot of sense. But overall, I thought it was a good show. A lot of stuff happened. A lot of moves were made. Some shocking ones, some expected ones. Not everyone's going to switch shows, nor should they. I mean, we had AJ move shows, Rollins move shows, and the New Day move shows, as well as Bianca and Naomi, among others. So the whole, oh, they didn't make a lot of moves. What fucking show are you watching, bro? They can't move everyone. They're not going to move Drew. They're not going to move Roman, nor should they right now. If they moved everyone, then it's going to be Raw on SmackDown and SmackDown on Raw. So this whole notion that, oh, they didn't make a lot of moves. They moved Rollins, too. He's been on Raw since day one. What more do you want from these people? I mean, honestly. They moved Rey Mysterio, too. They made a lot of big moves. Whatever. I thought it was a good show. Be sure to check it out, or, check out all my other SmackDown reviews here on the channel in the description box down below. I should be back next week. Again, my SmackDown reviews have been so inconsistent lately, just due to being extraordinarily busy. But they should be a regular thing moving forward once again, starting this week. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content, including exclusive interviews, like the one I did yesterday with Kevin Owens for Bleacher Report, the audio of which is up right now here on the channel, so check that out. Hit that little bell button as well to be notified every time a new video goes up. And as I said earlier, check out the separate post going up on WrestleRant.com, probably later today, if not already, running down my thoughts on each individual pick from Night 1 of the WWE Draft. So we have Night 2 on Monday. I'll discuss the entire draft next week on WrestleRant Radio with Mr. Marceau, about who went where, what moves were made, were they the right moves, so on and so forth. So check us out next week for more on that. Have a great rest of your weekend, guys. Stay tuned for my Talking Smack review for more WWE Draft results. That should be going up soon as well, right here on the channel. Have an awesome one, guys. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews. I'll catch your ass down the road.